Welcome students to this initial screencast regarding exponents, Exponents Part I, where we'll define some vocabulary and then go over some initial rules regarding exponents. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, initially we need to go over some vocab. So for instance, say I have some variable x raised to some power, say the second power. Well, we need to understand what I mean by base and exponent. X, in this case, is called the base, and bases can be variables or numbers. 2, on the other hand, is what we'll refer to as the exponent. So it's always great to lay out your vocabulary before you begin. That way we're on the same page when I use these terms throughout the screencast. Now, for instance, exponents work in this way. X squared really means take that base and multiply it by itself that many times. So x squared really means x times x. Or to use something more concrete, 2 squared means 2 times 2, which to write that in standard form is equal to 4. So notice how we went from the exponent form of 2 squared over to the standard form of 4. So here we have it written as a power, and here we have it written in standard form. Okay, with that initial vocabulary laid out, let's look at some rules. Now, one initial rule that confuses a lot of students is what happens when, say for instance, the variable a is raised to some negative power, so non-positive, for instance, a to the negative 2 power. Well, in general, a raised to any negative power is equal to 1 over that base a raised to the positive power, a to the n. So notice how no longer do we have a raised to the negative n power, but instead we have 1 over a to the n power. Or we have the reciprocal of a raised to that n power. So let's do a concrete example real quick. For instance, say we have 4 to the negative 2 power. Well, using our rule, we have 1 over, take the base, place it in the denominator, and raise it to the positive of that power. So instead of negative 2, to the positive 2 power. And then we can go ahead and evaluate that to write it in standard form. Well, that's 1 over 4 times 4. So that's what 4 squared means. And then we have, well, 4 times 4 is 16. So we went from the exponent form, or 4 raised to the negative 2 power, all the way over to standard form, 1 over 16. So that concludes Exponents Part I. In video Part 2, we'll go over some further exponent rules.